Chapter 1, Born to the Frost. I was born with a scream and a curse. The scream was mine. The curse belonged to the midwife. "Another hungry mouth," she spat, lifting me by the ankles so the blood ran off me and onto the packed earth floor. "The gods love iron in this house. They send you more boys than sense." My mother was too tired to answer. She lay back on the straw, hair stuck to her face with sweat, eyes glassy. My father stood near the hearth, arms crossed, his shadow swallowing the firelight. He was a big man, even then, a wall made of meat and bone and stubbornness. "Does it squall?" he asked. "It squalls," the midwife said as I wailed, "like it's angry to be here." My father grunted. "Good." He took me in his hands. They were rough, calloused hands that had rowed longships and swung axes and buried men. His fingers closed around my ribs like a smith testing a new blade. He raised me toward the smoke hole where a stripe of gray sky showed. "Look, boy," he said, "that is the roof of the world. That is where the gods live. They look down and laugh when weak men cry. Don't cry. Bite." I kept screaming. He laughed, the sound big and harsh. "A loud one," he told my mother. "We will make a raider out of him yet." "What if he doesn't want to be a raider?" she whispered. My father looked at her like she'd spoken a foreign tongue. "Then he can choose to be dead instead," he said. That was the first choice I was given. I don't remember taking it, but here I am. Chapter 2, The First Spear. I don't remember my first winter, only that everyone talked about it. "The snow swallowed the boats that year," old men would say, warming their hands over the fire. "Fjords froze so thick you could walk from one side to the other. We burned half the forest to stay alive. And Thorvald's youngest boy didn't die. Tough little rat." That was me, Eirik the youngest, the one who didn't die. I remember my 5th winter, though. I remember because that was the first time I saw a man die up close. We were on the hillside above the fjord. The snow squeaked under my boots. My brothers walked ahead of me. Long strides leaving prints my legs were too short to match. The air burned when I breathed. The man came stumbling up from the water's edge, clutching his stomach. His tunic was soaked dark. His eyes rolled toward us, white and wild. My oldest brother reached him first. "Who did this?" he demanded. The man coughed. Blood sprayed the snow. "Sigvard," he gasped. "Sigvard, one I says, this is what happens when you forget the share you owe." He fell face first and did not move again. I watched the red seep into the white, a slow blooming stain. "Is he sleeping?" I asked. My brother stared down at the body, jaw clenched. "No," he said. "He's free." He rolled the man with his boot. A knife handle stuck from the dead man's belly. It had a carved wolf's head for a pommel. I would come to know that mark well. My brother yanked it free and wiped the blade on the dead man's cloak. "Come," he said to me. "We bring this to father." We found my father in the yard, sharpening an axe with slow, patient strokes. When he saw the knife, he didn't ask where we'd found it. He simply nodded. "Sigvard is reminding us who owns the fjord," he said, as if anyone had forgotten. "Will we remind him back?" my brother asked. My father smiled a thin, dangerous smile. "One day," he said. "Not today. Today we sharpen our own teeth, and we wait." He tossed the knife to me. "Hold out your hand, Eirik." I did. The handle felt heavy, like something that wanted to sink through my skin and into my bone. "Remember that mark," he said, tapping the little wolf's head. "When you see it, it means 3 things: debt, blood, or both." "What do I do if I meet the man who carries it?" I asked. My father's eyes were very blue, like glacier ice, and just as forgiving. "You watch how he moves," he said, "and you decide whether today is a day to bow or to bite." That night I dreamed of wolves made of iron. stalking through snow that tasted like salt. When I woke, my fist was still clenched around the knife. Chapter 3: The Jarl with One Eye. I met Sigvard One Eye on a spring morning that smelled of thawing earth and old smoke. The fjord was waking up. Ice groaned and cracked on the water, breaking into drifting plates. Gulls screamed. Men shouted as they dragged the longships down from their winter sheds. Our village was small, just a cluster of halls and sheds pressed between the mountain and the sea. But when Sigvard's ship slid into view, it seemed like the whole world had arrived with it. It was bigger than the others, with a taller prow and more shields along the sides. The shields were painted black and red. The carved dragon head on the prow looked like it wanted to leap off and bite the sky. Men lined the shore as the ship scraped up onto the wet sand. Sigvard One Eye stepped off first. He was not the biggest man there. My father was broader, my oldest brother taller. But somehow Sigvard took up more space than any of them. He wore a wolfskin cloak. His hair and beard were streaked with gray, braided with little rings off bronze. One eye was bright and sharp as a raven's. The other was hidden behind a strip of leather. He looked around once, taking in everything. He saw me. I felt that gaze like a hand on the back of my neck. "This your new pup, Thorvald?" he called out. My father stepped forward. "My youngest," he said. "Eirik." Sigvard's single eye measured me. "How old?" "8 winters," my father said. "Still soft," Sigvard said, "but he might grow teeth." He beckoned me closer. "Come here, whelp. Old men say you should never refuse a jarl when he calls you." My legs moved before my mind did. Sigvard gripped my chin in his fingers and turned my face left, then right, like he was examining a horse. "You scared?" he asked. "Yes," I said. The men laughed. Sigvard did not. "Good," he said. "Only fools feel no fear. Do you know what we do with fear, boy?" "We kill it," I guessed. He barked a laugh. "No, we ride it, like we ride the sea. You let it throw you, you drown. You learn toe stand on it. It will carry you further than any ship." He let go of my chin and turned to my father. "I take 20 men this summer," he said. "Strong arms, sharp eyes, no cowards. Your older sons come with me. And the boy." My father stiffened. "He's young." "So were you when you followed me," Sigvard said. "That was different," my father said. "I had no family to feed." Sigvard's mouth curved. "Now you do," he said. "And who feeds them? You, scratching at frozen dirt for barley that won't grow? Or me, bringing gold and cattle and plunder back from the lands of soft men?" His tone hardened. "He goes," Sigvard said. "He learns to hold a weapon, or he learns to rot in the shadow of the mountain. You want a son or a stump?" My father looked at me. In his eyes, I saw fear, not of Sigvard, not of the sea. Fear of something far worse to a man like him. Fear of a son who never becomes a man. "He goes," my father said. Sigvard clapped me on the shoulder so hard I nearly fell. "Welcome to the wolf ship, Eirik Thorsson," he said. "Try not to die too early. It makes the rest of us look careless." The men laughed. I tried to. But in my chest, something cold stirred like a snake waking from sleep. Chapter 4: The Wolf Ship. The longship is not a boat. It is a beast. It has a spine of oak, ribs of pine, skin of planks. It has a mouth carved into the shape of dragon or wolf or serpent. It has a heart of 30, 40, 50 men all breathing the same salt air and sweating the same fear. They named our scally Ulfr Skullwolf. When the wind caught its striped sail, it looked like the jaws off something too big to live on land. The first time I stepped aboard, my legs trembled. The deck felt wrong under my feet, alive and shifting. Hakon was already there, coiling a rope. He was my age, but where I was broad-boned and slow-burning, he was all sharp edges and quick hands. He grinned when he saw me. "I knew the old wolf would take you," he said. "You knew?" I asked. He shrugged. "He likes boys who look like they're trying not to stare at him. Means they're paying attention." "I wasn't staring," I said. "You still are," Hakon said. I forced myself to look away. Sigvard barked orders. Men shoved the ship down the greased logs into the water. The hull slid with a groan and a hiss, then lifted, as if the sea were a hand picking up a toy. "Row!" Sigvard shouted. We rowed. The fjord slipped past, cliffs rising on either side, waterfalls streaming down like torn white banners. The wind bit my face. The muscles in my arms screamed. After a while, I stopped feeling my hands. "Don't let go," Hakon panted from the next bench. "If you drop the oar, they make you swim back." "They wouldn't," I gasped. He grinned. "You want to test that?" I did not. We reached the mouth of the fjord. The open sea spread ahead, a gray, shifting skin stretching to the edge of the world. Sigvard stood with his hand on the mast, his one eye fixed on the horizon. "Listen well," he shouted. "The sea will try to kill you, so will the men we raid, so will your own fear. Let none of them take you. If you must die, die doing something worth a saga." The men roared. The wind filled the sail. The world fell away behind us. Chapter 5: Fire on Foreign Stone. We raided small at first. Villages along the coast, fishermen's huts, a priest's house standing lonely on a cliff. We took cows and sheep and silver and women. We burned what we couldn't carry. Fear spread ahead of us like smoke. The first big raid came at the end of my second summer. We had grown cocky. We had grown hungry. Sigvard grew ambitious. "There is a monastery," he said one night, hunched over a crude map scratched on a table with a knife point. "Rich, fat, complacent. They keep their god in a box made of gold and their wine in barrels bigger than our boats." The men laughed, licked their lips, shouted for blood and plunder. We came at dawn. Always dawn. The mist rolled off the sea in low, curling waves. The beach was a strip of pale sand, leading up a slopedo stone buildings that looked like they'd grown out of the rock itself. Bells started ringing as we pulled the ship onto the shore. "Too late," Sigvard said, almost kindly. We ran. My boots slipped on damp grass. My breath puffed white. A man in a robe burst through the monastery gate, hair shorn in a strange half-circle, eyes wide. He shouted something. I didn't understand the words. I understood the terror. Sigvard's axe took him in the chest. He folded with a sound like wet cloth hitting the ground. "Remember," Sigvard shouted as more robed men spilled out. "They chose a god who won't save them. That is their sin, not ours." After that, there was no more talking. There was only steel. I remember flashes. A man swinging a staff at me, the crack of it against my shield, the shock in his eyes when my axe bit into his shoulder. Books scattered across the floor, pages torn, black ink mixing with blood. A golden cup heavy in my hand. A young monk on his knees, hands clasped, whispering to his crucified God as one of our men stepped behind him with a knife. Later, as the smoke poured out of shattered windows and flames licked at the stone, I stood in the yard, chest heaving, the weight of the cuirass like a hand pressing on my heart. Hakon came to stand beside me, face streaked with soot. "You shake," he said. "I am cold," I lied. "It's not that cold," he said. I looked at my hands. Blood had dried on my knuckles in brown flakes. "I killed a man who didn't even have a sword," I said. Hakon tilted his head. "He had a god," he said. "If the god let him die, that's not your fault. That's between them." He clapped my shoulder. "Come. There's wine, And Sigvard says we can taste it before we smash the barrels. We marched back to the ship with sacks heavy and hearts heavier. The smoke towered behind us, a black finger pointing at the sky as if accusing someone. Anyone. The gods said nothing. Chapter 6, A Knife in the Hall. You can fill a hall with gold. It will not make men less hungry. We came home rich that year. Our longship rode low in the water under the weight of silver and wine and rugs and weapons. The women sang as they saw us come around the bend. Children ran along the shore, shouting our names. My mother's face lit up when she saw me step off the ship. "You came back," she said. "Of course," I said, hugging her. "Who else would eat your stew?" She laughed and slapped my shoulder. "You sound like your father." My father stood a little apart, arms crossed, watching Sigvard. The jarl unloaded the treasure like a king handing out favors. He gave my father a good share, cattle, silver, tools. They nodded to each other, two men who had bled together in younger days. But there was something between them now. Something I could not name then. I would name it later. Winter came. Snow draped the valley. The fjord froze at the edges, the ice creaking and cracking as the tide tugged at it. The longships were dragged up onto dry land, hulls washed, planks checked for rot. In the hall, the fire burned high. Men crowded the benches, drinking, boasting, telling stories of raids past. Sigvard sat in the high seat, cloak spread around him like a wolf's shadow, one eye gleaming. My father sat near him, not below, not quite level. That was the problem. It started with a song. One of the skalds, a thin man with a sharp tongue, stood up and began to chant a verse about Sigvard's youth, the battles he had won, the men he had killed, the women he had taken. At the end of one verse he sang, "No man stood above him. No man stood his equal. All bent the knee to Sigvard, wolf of the iron fjord." The men banged their cups on the table and roared. My father did not clap. He drank in silence, staring into the fire. Sigvard noticed. "Something in your throat, Thorvald?" he asked. My father looked up slowly. "I have stood beside you in battle since before that pup could row a boat," he said, jerking his chin toward me. "I have taken blows meant for you. I have buried friends we shared. I have never bent Mikni to you when it was not needed. Do not pretend the whole fjord curls at your feet like a dog." The hall went quiet. Hakon's gaze flicked to me. His eyes said, "Don't move. Don't speak." Sigvard leaned forward in his seat. "You think yourself my equal?" he asked softly. "I think myself a man," my father said, "not a shadow." Sigvard smiled, slow and thin. "You stand tall, Thorvald. Maybe too tall." His fingers played with the knife at his belt. The same Kindorf knife I'd held as a child. Wolf's head on the pommel. "The fjord is mine," Sigvard said. "Not yours, not ours. Mine. The ships, the cattle, the men, the songs, they flow from my hand. They return to my hand. That is what jarl means." "It means man the gods haven't struck down yet," my father said. The silence in the hall turned sharp. Sigvard rose. "Swear," he said. "To what?" my father asked. "To me," Sigvard said. "Swear by your blood and your son's blood that you will follow where I lead, bend where I command, fight where I point. Swear that you will never put your own pride before my will." My father's jaw tightened. "I fought beside you when you had 2 eyes and little more than a patched-up ship," he said. "I followed you when you slept in the mud next to me. I do not swear my son's life to a man who thinks the gods gave him the sky." "This is not a choice," Sigvard said. "There is always a choice," my father replied. His hand dropped to the axe at his belt. I didn't think he did it consciously. It was the movement of a man who had reached for that weapon 10,000 times in his life. Sigvard saw. Men like him always see. His knife moved in a blur. The sound it made going in was small. A wetchfizz, the point slid between ribs. My father looked down, more confused than hurt at first, as if someone had played a trick on him. The knife handle jutted from his chest. Red spread across his tunic. He staggered. My mother screamed. I was already moving before I realized it, pushing past startled men, reaching for my father as he fell. Hakon's hand clamped on my arm like a trap. "Don't," he hissed. "Not now. Not like this." Sigvard stepped back, letting my father drop to his knees. "Thorvald Thorsson," Sigvard said loudly, for all to hear, "you raised your hand against your jarl in his own hall. Even if your hand was not fully drawn, your pride was. This is what happens when a man forgets who holds the ship's rudder." My father turned his head, eyes bleary, searching for me. I broke Hakon's grip and caught him as he fell forward. His blood soaked my hands, hot and thick. "Father," I whispered. His breath rattled. "Eirik," he said. His voice sounded like someone walking on gravel. "Don't bow where you should bite." His hand twitched against my arm. Then it went still. The hall smelled of smoke and meat and blood. Sigvard looked down at us, expression unreadable. "Eirik Thorsson," he said, "your father chose his pride. He died for it. Will you do the same? Or will you stand up and be a man who knows when to kneel?" The men watched me, some with pity, some with hunger, some with dread. I could feel their eyes like blades. If I threw myself at Sigvard, I would die. Maybe I would take an eye, an ear, a piece of him. But I would die. My mother would lose her youngest son as well as her husband. My brothers would be marked as kin of a fool. The fjord would belong to Sigvard either way. I looked at my father's face. There was blood on his lips. There was peace, too, beneath the slackness. Death had taken the weight from his eyes. Then I stood. My knees shook, but I forced them to lock. I met Sigvard's single, hard eye. "I will sail where you point," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. "I will fight where you command. I will not raise my hand against you in your hall." Sigvard's mouth twitched. "Good," he said. "The boy has more sense than the father." He turned away, raising his horn. "To Thorvald," he shouted, "a brave man who forgot himself." The men roared and drank. I knelt again beside my father's body. Hakon crouched next to me, voice a whisper. "You chose life," he said. "That is not nothing." "I chose to kneel," I said. He nodded. "Sometimes that is the same thing." The ravens on the roof beam shifted, black eyes gleaming. They had seen everything. They remember. Chapter 7, Blood on the River. You do not forgive a man for killing your father. You bury it. You push it down into the dark places, where the cold and the salt and the battle songs keep it asleep. Most of the time, Sigvard did not speak of that night again. No one did. In the hall, my father's name disappeared from stories. He had not fallen in battle. He had not died in a foreign land. He had bled on the floor like a drunk who slipped near the hearth. Such deaths are not sung. But memory is not a skald. It does not care what makes a good story. Keeps what it keeps. The next summer, Sigvard took me and Hakon and a full crew of hard men south, to a town on a wide river where the locals thought stone walls and iron gates would stop us. They were wrong. The battle turned quick and ugly. Their spearmen were better drilled than the farmers and monks we were used to, their shields locked tight, their feet dug into the mud of the riverbank. Our first charge crashed against them and broke. We fell back, panting, shields splintered. Again, Sigvard roared. We went again. The world narrowed to a strip of ground, a forest of spears, the weight of the shield on my arm, the thud of boots, the crunch of bone. I do not know how many men I killed. I only remember one. He was young, no beard, helmet too big, hands shaking as he thrust his spear. Our eyes met for a heartbeat. We were the same. Then my axe took him in the neck and he went down gurgling. His blood sprayed my face. It had the same warmth as my father's. "Eirik!" Hakon shouted. "Move!" I moved. We broke them on the third charge. Sigvard himself waded into the gap, sword swinging, laughter bursting from his throat. He was in his element, surrounded by men trying to kill him and failing. We pushed them back to the town gate. That's when I saw Sigvard stagger. An arrow jutted from his shoulder. He snarled and snapped it off, then took another in the thigh. His leg buckled. He went down on one knee. For an instant, the men around him hesitated. The jarl was not supposed to fall. The world shifted. A spear came thrusting at his face. My body moved before my mind. I slammed my shield into the spear, knocking it aside. My axe took the man in the chest. He folded. "Get up," I growled at Sigvard. He looked up at me, that one cold eye bright with pain and something else. Amusement. "Now," he rasped, "now you save me? Die in your own hall if you must," I said, "not in the mud like a pig." He laughed, harsh and raw, and forced himself upright, using my shoulder as support. "Forward," he bellowed, blood running down his leg. "If I die today, I die in front of you, not behind." We took the gate. We burned the town. We dragged loot and captives and fire back to the ship. On the deck of the Scally Ulfr, as the smoke rose behind us, Sigvard sat with his back against the mast, teeth bared in a grimace. "Pull it," he told me, gesturing to the arrowhead lodged in his thigh. I wrapped my fingers around the shaft. "You should have left me there," he said conversationally as I worked it loose. "I know," I said. "You should have buried an axe in my throat when I was on my knees," he said. "I know," I said again. "You're a fool," he said. The arrow came free with a wet sound. He hissed between his teeth. "Maybe," I said. He watched me eye sharp. "You think this was mercy," he said. "It wasn't. It was cowardice. You are afraid of what comes after Eidi, of the men who will scramble for the high seat, of the blood that will soak this fjord." He was not wrong. "You are not the only wolf," I said, "just the biggest. When you fall, the pack will turn on itself." He grinned. "It will," he said. "And you? Which throat will you tear first?" I wiped the arrow on the deck. "I don't know," I said. "Yes, you do," he said. "You're just not ready to say it." He leaned his head back and closed his eye. "Remember this, Eirik Thorsson," he said. "A man who hesitates to kill his enemies dies to his friends." The deck pitched gently under my feet. The river slid by, carrying ashen memory. Chapter 8, The Fire in the Fjord. Sigvard did not die from that wound. Men like him do not die quickly. He limped for a season, then walked as if nothing had changed. The scar on his thigh became another story to tell, another proof that the gods liked to throw steel at him and fail. But something had changed. The men saw him stumble. They saw him bleed. They saw me drag him to his feet. Whispers started. Not loud, not open. At the edge of fires, in the pauses between songs, on the ship at night when most slept. Sigvard grows old. We need a younger wolf. Eirik stands close to the high seat now. Thorvald's boy. His father died defying the jarl. Will the son finish what the father started? My mother avoided my eyes when I came home. She aged 2 winters for every one that passed. "You spend more time on the sea than on your own land," she said once. "The sea is where the silver is," I said. "And the blood," she replied. She was not wrong. The winter after the river raid, the fjord felt tighter. Like the walls of the hall had crept closer together. Like the mountain leaned in, listening. Sigvard called a feast. All the free men of the fjord came. So did those who wished to be thought of as free. The hall blazed with torches. The air was thick with the smell of roasting meat, beer, sweat. Sigvard raised his horn. "We are strong," he said, "stronger than any fjord on this coast. Our ships have gone farther, our blades have bitten deeper, our coffers are heavier. But strength draws enemies, not just from foreign shores." His eye raked the room. "Some of you wonder what will happen when I die," he said. "You whisper in corners. You say Sigvard cannot live forever. You eye my seat the way a hungry dog eyes a bone." A ripple of unease ran through the men. Sigvard laughed. "You're right," he said. "I cannot live forever. One day the gods will get lucky, or one of you will stand close enough with a blade and finally make up his mind." His gaze settled on me. "For a hall to stand, someone must be ready to hold its roof when the old pillars crack," he said. "I have chosen who that will be." The hall held its breath. My heart thudded. Sigvard lifted his horn toward me. "Eirik Thorsson," he said, "who saved his jarl when others might have turned away, who stands in Theshild wall without fear, who bows when he must and bites when he chooses. When I am gone, he will stand where I stand now." The hall erupted. Some shouted my name, some cursed, some exchanged dark looks. My brothers stared at me with faces I could not read. My mother's cup slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. Hakon pressed his shoulder to mine. "Well," he muttered, "that's one way to paint a target on your own back." "I didn't ask for this," I said. "No one does," he said. "The gods like to throw men into fires just to see how they burn." Chapter 9, Choosing the Fire. They did not wait long to test me. 3 brothers from a neighboring farm, grim men with more muscle than sense, cornered me near the sheds 2 nights after the feast. The snow crunched under our boots. Our breath smoked the air. "So," the oldest said, "Sigvard's puppy grows fangs." "I didn't grow anything," I said. "I'm the same man I was last week." "The same man doesn't have the jarl's seat dangled in front of his nose," another sneered. "Sigvard's getting soft," the third said. "He sees his death coming and grabs the nearest beard to hide behind." I kept my hands loose at my sides. "Say what you want about me," I said. "Watch your tongue about the jarl in his own fjord." "Listen to him," the eldest scoffed, "already talking like he owns the place." He stepped closer. "You are Thorvald's son," he said. "Your father died on his knees in that hall, bleeding like a stuck pig." I did not remember closing the distance between us. One moment he was talking. The next my forearm was pressed against his throat, my other hand gripping his hair, slamming his head back into the shed wall. "You speak my father's name again," I said, my voice very calm, "and you won't have a tongue to use next time." His brothers tensed. Hands went to blades. A shadow detached itself from the gloom. Hakon stepped into the moonlight, knife glinting. "For men shedding each other's blood over talk," he said lightly. "In the snow, where the ravens can't see. They love that. They get so fat." No one moved. The eldest brother's eyes met mine. There was fear there, and something like respect. Very small, very sharp. He swallowed. "Come, brothers," he said hoarsely when I released him. "We have better things to do than waste stealin' the jarl's future ghost." They walked away. "Idiots," Hakon muttered. "You can't stab a problem that big in the snow behind a shed. It takes a halt to hold that kind of blood." I leaned my forehead against the wooden wall, breathing hard. "I don't want this," I said. "I know," he said. "But if I refuse?" Someone worse will take it, Hakon said. Someone who would have killed Sigvard on that riverbank, and your father in the doorway, and you in your sleep. He clapped my shoulder. The gods set the board, he said. We just move where we can. Chapter 10. The Last Voyage of the Scally ULFR. Sigvard did not live to see me take his seat. He also did not die by my hand. That is the last mercy he gave me. It was our last great raid together. He chose a distant target, a rich coastal stronghold 3 weeks' sail away, full of traders and warriors and priests with gold on their fingers. If I die, he said as we pushed the Scally Ulfrinto the water, I die doing what the gods made me for, not rotting in my hall while puppies argue over my bones. He clapped my back. Stay close, Eirik. You might learn how to die well. I did. We sailed through storms. Waves taller than houses crashed over the bow, smashing shields, ripping men from the benches. Wellest one crewman to the sea. Another broke his leg when a wave threw him into the mast. Sigvard stood. He always stood. His cloak snapped in the wind. His one eye was fixed on the horizon, unblinking. You think he'll drown? Hakon shouted in my ear once, as spray lashed us. No, I shouted back. Why not? Because the sea is afraid he'll try to rule it if he gets below, I said. Hakon laughed until a wave hit him in the face. When we reached the enemy coast, we were half dead and twice as angry. The town squatted on a headland like a fat spider, walls of stone, towers, a harbor full of round-bellied ships. We came at dawn. Always dawn. They saw us. They rang their bells. Men poured onto the walls, armor clinking, spears bristling. Sigvard's grin was a white slash in his beard. Finally, he said, someone who thinks they're ready. He refused to land where they expected. He steered the ship toward a rocky inlet where the waves hammered the shore and the cliffs loomed. Are you mad? One of the older warriors shouted. We'll be dashed to bits. Sigvard's eye flashed. Then row straight and keep your teeth clenched, he said. We threaded between rocks slick with foam, oars scraping, hull groaning. Twice I thought we'd split. Twice the Scally ulferbucked and slid free like a living thing. We landed on a narrow strip of stony shore beneath a section of wall the defenders thought sheer. It wasn't. We climbed. Hands numb, nails torn, shields slung over our backs, axes tied to our belts. Rocks crumbled under our fingers. Below us, the sea boomed and hissed eager. Above us, the sky turned pink with morning. Sigvard climbed as if the cliff were a staircase. He reached the top first, swung his leg over the parapet, and vanished. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd fallen. Then his voice roared. Up, up, you sons of stubborn cows. We hauled ourselves over the edge. The first defender I saw had an arrow half-drawn. Sigvard's sword took him across the face. We rolled over the parapet like a wave breaking, cutting down the sleepy, confused guards who'd never imagined the sea could spit wolves onto their high wall. Within moments, that section was ours. We threw open a small postern gate from the inside. Our second ship, which had feigned retreat, swung back and poured more men onto the shore below. By the time the main gate opened and their cavalry tried to mount a countercharge, we were already in air streets, setting fire to their houses, cutting down anyone who tried to form a line. Sigvard fought at the front. He always did. He laughed when they hit him. He roared when they fled. He sang as the world burned around him. I do not know what killed him. In the chaos, in the smoke and screams, I lost sight of him. One moment he was ahead of me, slamming his shield into a mailed enemy, axe rising. The next moment he was not. We drove them back to their central square. They broke. They ran. The town was ours. The fires climbed higher. I found Sigvard on the steps of their temple. He lay on his back, staring up at a god nailed to a cross above him. A spear jutted from his chest just below the collarbone. He had one hand wrapped around the shaft like he tried to pull it free and thought better of it. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. His one eye rolled toward me. "Late again, boy," he rasped. I dropped to my knees beside him. "You always do this," he said, voice wet. "Always come when it's just a little too late to make a difference." "I can help," I said. We'll get you back to the ship. We've seen worse wounds." He coughed. Red sprayed my face. "I have not," he said. "The gods finally had a spear with my name on it." His fingers gripped my wrist. For an old man full of holes, he was still strong. "Listen," he said. "I am listening," I said. "That's why you're still alive," he muttered. Then, louder, "The fjord, the hall, the men, they will tear each other apart when I am ash. Wolves fighting over bones. You can stop it." "I don't know how," I said. "Yes, you do," he said. "You just don't like the answer." He coughed again. His blood ran warm down my arm. "I killed your father," he said. "I remember," I said. "I would do it again," he said. "He made me choose between weakness and fear. I chose neither. I chose to remind everyone who held the knife." "I know," I said. "You should have killed me on that river," he said. "But you didn't. That means the gods have some twisted plan for you. Or they're bored. Either way, when you sit in my seat, you will have a choice and never had." His eye bored into mine. "Choose better," he said. His grip slackened. His chest rose once, twice, stopped. The flames from the burning temple licked higher. The nailed gods stared down, wooden and useless. I closed Sigvard's eye. For a moment, the world was silent. Then the screams and crackle of fire came rushing back. Hakon limped up, blood on his leg. "Is he?" "Yes," I said. He looked down at Sigvard's body for a long moment. "Did you kill him?" he asked quietly. "No," I said. "Pity," Hakon said. "Would have made a better story." He clapped my shoulder. "Well, Jarl," he said, "what now?" I looked at the burning town, at the bodies in the square, at the ship visible through the smoke, bobbing in the harbor, at the men who would expect me to lead, at the long road back to the fjord, at the hall where my father died and Sigvard sat. I took a breath that tasted of ash. "We take what we can," I said. "We burn the rest. We carry him home. And then we see whether Thefjord splits or stands." Hakon nodded. "Spoken like a man who knows he's walking into a wolf's den wearing a meat cloak," he said. "That's all I've ever worn," I said. We built a pyre for Sigvard. Not there, among foreign gods and strange tongues. We lashed his body to a plank, wrapped in his cloak, sword across his chest, shield at his side. We slid him into the sea. The fire we set upon him crackled and hissed, reflected in the black water. The ravens followed us home. Chapter 11, Ashes and Names. We returned to a fjord waiting to fracture. News travels faster than ships. By the time we hauled Sigvard's empty cloak and shield into the hall, men had already picked sides into our hearts. Some thought the Jarl's sons should take his place. They lined up behind the eldest, a heavy-shouldered man with more resentment than brains and enough scars to convince himself he deserved the seat. Others eyed me. They saw the man Sigvard had named, the one who'd stood beside him, the one who had his ear and his trust and his last words. They saw a claim. My mother saw something different. She saw a boy who once held a knife with a wolf's head and asked what to do when he met the man who carried it. She grabbed my arm as we entered the hall. "Don't," she hissed. "Don't what?" I asked. "Don't sit in that seat," she said. Her fingers dug into my flesh. Let them tear each other apart. Let Thefjord drown in its own blood if it must. Take a ship, take a handful of men. Go, live. And leave you? I asked. She smiled, sad and fierce. I was born under this mountain, she said. I will die under it. The hall is not your home, Eirik. The sea is. The oar, the axe, the cold stars. You were never meant to rot on that carved chair, listening Toman whine about pasture and pride. You sound like him, I said. She flinched. He was right about some things, she said. That's what makes it worse. Before I could answer, a shout came from the far end of the hall. Here he is, Sigvard's eldest son bellowed. The man my father fed like a dog, raised like a son, and named as his shadow. Tell us, Eirik Wolfblood, do you come to claim what is not yours? I stepped forward. The hall fell silent. I looked at the high seat. I looked at the carved wolf heads. I looked at the stains in the floorboards where my father's blood had once pooled, now scrubbed and faded but alive in my memory. I looked at the faces. Fear, hope, hate, calculation. Hakon's gaze found mine. He shrugged as if to say, well, I come, I said slowly, to do what I have always done. And what is that? Sigvard's son sneered. I took a breath. I sail, I said. I fight. I bring home what I can. I bury who I must. I don't sit. A murmur rippled through the hall. You refuse the seat? Someone whispered. Only a fool refuses such power, another muttered. Sigvard's son grinned, teeth yellow. See, he said, he is a coward. He knows the hall will eat him alive. The jarl's seat is not for men who run to the sea whenever the wind turns foul. He climbed the steps and flung himself into the high seat. The carved wolves seemed to flinch. I am jarl now, he said, first man in this fjord. Those who follow will eat well. Those who don't can starve or sink or choke on their pride, as they choose. Some men shouted assent. Others looked away. Hakon leaned close to me. You just handed him the hall, he said. Sure you're not going to wake up tonight wishing you'd taken it? I already wake up wishing things that can't happen, I said. Like what? Like my father standing there instead of Sigvard's son. Hakon grunted. Fair, he said. So, what now? Now, I said, we see how badly he breaks it, and then we decide whether to let it stay broken. Chapter 12, Ashes of the Wolf Ship. Power doesn't reveal a man. It enlarges him. Sigvard's son had always been petty, jealous, hot-headed. Given a hall and the jarl's name, he became worse. He taxed too hard. He punished too quickly. He rewarded flattery and crushed disagreement. He did not raid well. He had courage, but not the kind that watches the tides and the winds and the men's eyes. He wasted lives like kindling, throwing men at bad targets, refusing to retreat when the gods themselves shoulded enough in the screams of the wounded and the creak of straining hulls. The fjord's strength began to rot. Some blamed him. Some blamed Sigvard for naming me and then dying at the wrong time. Some blamed me for refusing the seat. One night, as the wind howled down from the mountain and the sea hissed against the ice at the fjord's edge, Hakon and I sat on the old stones above the village, watching the smoke from the hall drift. You can still take it, Hakon said. Men grumble. Toothless old warriors complain into their cups. Young ones want glory, not this slow starving. You could call them. They'd come. And then, I asked. Then you sit where he sits, Hakon said. You lead the raids. You keep the share fair. You let the foolish die in battle instead of wasting away under a fool. And when I grow old, I asked, when my hand shakes and my eye dims and some young wolf looks at my seat and wonders if he could hold it better? Hakon smiled crookedly. Then I hope I'm there to warn you, he said, or to kill you if you don't listen. I laughed despite myself. The laughter tasted like salt. "You want the truth?" I asked. "Always," he said. "I don't trust myself with this fjord," I said. "I know what I'm like on the sea. I know what I'm like with an axe. I know the shape of my rage. Give me a haul, and one day I'll be the man your sons curse in the stories they don't tell at feasts." "You think you're better than Sigvard?" Hakon asked. "No," I said. "I think I'm the same kind of man, and we've had enough of that kind of man for one lifetime." Hakon was quiet for a long time. "You're a strange wolf, Eirik Thorsson," he said at last. "Too tired to be a jarl, too proud to be a thrall, too honest to be a skald." "Then what am I?" I asked. He nudged me with his shoulder. "You're a sail looking for a wind," he said. In the end, the decision was made for me. Sigvard's son, he never earned a name I'd repeat, picked a fight with a neighboring jarl bigger and meaner than he was. He refused to listen to advice. He sailed at the wrong time with the wrong men to the wrong coast. I went, not for him, for the men who would die if I wasn't there to drag them out of the fire. It went as badly as I expected. We were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, outled. By midday, the beach was a charnel house. The enemy pressed us back toward the slimy rocks. Their archers cut down anyone who broke from the shield wall. Sigvard's son wasted himself on a stupid charge, roaring his father's name and mine and the gods and his own, as if volume alone could make him worthy. He died with 3 spears in him. His last words were a curse at the men who didn't follow him fast enough. When he fell, our line wavered. I stepped into the gap. "Back!" I shouted. "To the ship! Now!" "Leave the dead," Hakon bellowed. "They'll still be there when the crows are done." We dragged the living to the scally Ulfrand, pushed off under a hail of arrows. 2 more men fell into the water and did not surface. When we cleared bowshot and the enemy turned back to stripping corpses rather than chasing us, I went to check the damage. The hull was holed. Water seeped between the planks. The scally Ulfr had spent its last storm. "She'll not see another winter," Hakon said, running his hand along the splintered wood. "Neither will half the fjord," one of the older warriors muttered. "He took too many and brought back too few." They looked at me, not with the clean hunger of men who want a leader, with the dull, bitter gaze of men who know the game is rigged and are asking if I intend to pretend otherwise. The wind was cold. The sea was gray. My hands were empty. "I'm done," I said. They blinked. "What?" Hakon asked. "I'm done," I repeated, "with halls, with seats, with fjords that eat their own and blame the gods. They'll take whoever wants to come and we'll go. Farther than before. East, west, I don't care. Somewhere new. Somewhere our dead don't already own the soil." "And this place?" one of the men asked. I looked back at the receding shore. "I leave it to those who want it," I said. "Let them gnaw the bones." We burned the scally Ulfr at dusk. She deserved a pyre, not to sink quietly under the gnawing of worms. We filled her with what we could not take, with broken shields and shattered spears and worn oars polished by years of hands. We set her alight. Flames licked the dragon head. The paint blistered and peeled. For a moment in the glare, I thought I saw her move, tugging at the moorings, trying to leap once more into the dark. Then the fire ate too deep. She sagged. She cracked. She sank. The water hissed. Ash swirled. I felt something loosen in my chest. A knot untying. A rope snapping. The last tie to the boy who gripped N or until his hands bled. Hakon stood beside me, face lit orange. "Well," he said, "there goes the only thing that ever truly owned us." "The sea still owns us," I said. He smiled. "The sea never owned us," he said. "We just rode it until it was tired of trying to throw us off." He held out his hand. "Where now, Jarl without a hall?" he asked. I took his hand. "Anywhere that isn't here," I said. We sailed in a smaller ship with fewer men under no one's banner. We went farther than we ever had. We saw lands where the sun baked the earth until it cracked, where the people painted their faces and wore gold in their noses and their laws like chains around their own necks. We raided. We fought. We bled. We lost men and buried them under foreign stones and foreign sands. We gained others, runaways, exiles, younger sons tired of bowing to older fools. We were not a crew. We were a collection of ghosts looking for a wind. Chapter 13, Echoes on the Water. Years blur. Faces blur. Battles blur. What doesn't blur is the quiet. The nights when the sea is a black sheet and the stars are cold pinpricks and the only sound is the creak off wood and the slow sigh of waves. Those nights, the dead sit closer. I hear my father's voice, for once not shouting, not teaching, just talking. I hear Sigvard laughing as the storm tries to drown him. I hear Hakon telling some terrible joke at the worst possible moment. I hear the monks chanting. I hear the town bells. I hear my own breath. It frosts in the air. The joints in my fingers ache more than they used to. My beard is streaked with white. I am no longer the youngest on any ship. One night, as the northern lights writhe across the sky like the ghosts of serpents, one of the younger men sits beside me at the prow. His name is Arn. He still has more scarless skin than not. "Eirik," he says, hesitant, "tell me about the old raids." "You were there," I say. "Not those," he says. "The first ones, when Sigvard was Jarl, when the scally Ulfrstil floated, when you were different." I laugh, comes out like a cough. "I was never different," I say, "just younger." "Did it feel glorious?" he asks. "No," I say. He waits. "What did it feel like?" he asks. I watch the curtain of light ripple overhead. "Hungry," I say. "Like every day I woke up ready to bite the world, and every night I went to sleep with salt in my teeth and the taste of someone else's blood in my throat." He is silent for a long time. "Do you regret it?" he asks. "Yes," I say. He seems surprised. "All of it?" he presses. "The gold, the women, the songs, the fear in the enemy's eyes?" "Yes," I say again. He frowns. "I don't understand," he says. "Good," I say. "Hold on to that as long as you can." He waits to see if I will say more. I don't. The sky burns green and blue and white. The sea moves under us, indifferent. Chapter 14, Ashes of the Wolf. I am old now. Old for a man who has done what I've done. My hands shake when I hold a cup too long. My knees ache when the weather changes. My dreams are louder than my waking hours. We pulled our ship into a quiet bay at the end of a long summer, the rocks black and the water cold and clear. "Here," I told the men, "we stop. Winter is sharp this far north. If we push farther, we'll freeze where we stand." They did not argue. Even young wolves know when to lie down. We built huts from driftwood and stone. We set nets. We dried fish. We gathered what the land would give. One night, as the first snow fell in light, lazy flakes, Hakon did not come back from checking the nets. We found him the next morning. He lay on the rocks, face peaceful, eyes half open, a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. No blood, no sign of struggle. His heart had simply decided it was tired of beating. He had always said he wanted to die in the middle of a joke. Maybe he did. We burned him on a pyre made of twisted, salt-stained wood. The flames were small but stubborn, like him. His ashes drifted out over the water. Arguing with the tide, I like to think. After that, the silence grew bigger. The younger men looked to me more often. It made me tired. One morning I woke and could not lift my right arm without pain lancing from my shoulder to my fingertips. "Your raiding days are done," Arn said gently. "They've been done a long time," I said. "I'm just catching up." I sit now on a rock above the bay. The air smells of snow and salt. The sea is gray, as always. The sky is low, as if thinking. I speak these words into the cold air for no one. For everyone. For you. I was Eirik Thorsson. I was the boy who watched his father's blood spill on a hall floor and chose to live with the man who spilled it. I was the youth who held an oar until his hands bled and an axe until his heart did. I was the man who saved his jarl when he should have killed him and refused a hall when he could have claimed it. I burned towns. I broke men. I made widows and orphans. I chased glory and found only ghosts. If there is honor in my life, it is this. When the time came to choose what kind of wolf I would be, I did not always choose well. But I chose that I did not let the sea, or the gods, or other men choose for me. That is all we can do. The sea does not remember our names. The fire does not care whose houses it eats. The axe does not listen to the words we shout when we swing it. But the stories remain. If you tell mine, tell it true, not as a saga of a hero, as the tale of a man born into iron and frost who tried, in his clumsy, bloody way, not to become the kind of monster that raised him. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I did not. If the ravens remember me, they will call me Wolfblood, Shipburner, Oathbreaker, Stormrider. If the gods remember me, they might call me Fool. If you remember me at all, remember this. We are not the ships. We are not the halls. We are not the gold. We are the ashes that drift after. And on a quiet night, when the wind is right and the sea is not too loud, you might still hear us. A creak of wood that is no longer there, a distant shout in a language no one speaks, a laugh cut short by the hiss of an unseen wave. Listen, that is the sound of the wolf ships. That is the sound of men like me. That is the sound of stories refusing to drown.